Time now for the Week 6 Over-Under Challenge. This segment is presented by DraftKings, and as always, I am joined by Colin Cowherd to talk through some of our favorite player picks for this week's slate. Hard to believe it's already Week 6. The off-season weeks seem to just drag on, and then in season they seem to fly by. As a reminder to everyone listening, you can play along with our Over-Under Challenge and try to not only beat Colin, but win some cool prizes as well by heading to fantasypros.com/challenge. All right, Colin, let's start, as always, with the quarterbacks, and we'll start with C.J. Stroud. He's QB 11 so far in the season, 17 fantasy points per game on DraftKings so far, has not finished higher than QB 7 in any week. He's having one of those years, to my eye, where when you watch him, he clearly has it, right? We know he's good, but the box score numbers aren't always there. Now he's facing a New England pass defense that's allowing just 7.6 yards per attempt this season, seventh worst in the NFL, excuse me. What do you make of Stroud in this matchup?
Do not like it. New England's played people tough. He doesn't have Nico Collins. It changes everything. He struggled without Joe Mixon. You know, you take this young quarterback, you put him on the road, you send him up north. I think New England's not a very good team. They may be the league's worst team, but they've got spirit. They fight. I think defensively they're pretty solid. I think Drake May's a better version than Jacoby Brissett at this point, a better option. I don't like this for C.J. Stroud.
I was going to ask, could you see the defense maybe kind of stepping up even more so and feeling galvanized by the quarterback change and getting kind of the young hotshot rookie in there?
Yeah, I mean, you see it with interim coaches. Watch the Jets play really inspired football against Buffalo. It's the substitute teacher rule where everybody loves the substitute. You know, they want to impress. My take is New England, Drake May will play pretty well, and the Jets will with the interim coach as well.
The other quarterback I wanted to hit on, Kirk Cousins, obviously coming off of a huge game. He's just QB 16 on the season on DraftKings scoring, was QB1 last week, 35.4 fantasy points. Obviously throwing for 500 yards helps a lot with the fantasy scoring. He now gets to go up against that Carolina pass defense. What do you think about this matchup for Cousins?
Well, it's a divisional game, and Kirk's coming off the best game of his career, so I think people are overvaluing the moment. Generally speaking, in division rivalry games, I would take the underdog, especially when the underdog is at home. So I think Carolina's a team that if they get healthy offensive linemen back, watch out. They may go into this game undermanned up front, but I think Kirk Cousins, buy low, sell high, is not going to throw for 500 yards. I think it's a bit of a sell here off that amazing Thursday Night Football performance.
Let's look at some running backs here. Derrick Henry, the ageless wonder, has been awesome. I was very aggressively drafting him in fantasy this year. I loved the fit with the Ravens. And there were some people fading him given the age, but that has proven to be the incorrect thing to do. He's RB2 on the season, over 20 fantasy points per game on DraftKings. He's now going up against this Commanders rush defense, allowing over 5 yards per carry on the season, third worst in the NFL. Do you like Henry this week?
I think Baltimore is the better team, and I think Washington, I really do buy Washington, but Lamar Jackson may have played his best game as a pro, so whenever a player does that, I think they scale back, and I also think they don't want to make Lamar vulnerable. This team's offensive line, I think they're going to go back and forth this year. Lamar game, Derrick Henry game. Lamar game, Derrick Henry game. I think this is a Derrick Henry game, so I think he'll flourish here.
It's a good point, because just looking in the last 2 weeks, week 4, it was a Derrick Henry game against Buffalo. Week 5, a Lamar Jackson game. So we think we're going back to the ground with the Ravens this week. The other running back I wanted to hit on, Jahmyr Gibbs at Dallas. He's RB9 on the season, 15 fantasy points per game, facing a Dallas rush defense that has allowed 675 rushing yards so far this season, ninth worst in the NFL. We've seen them get run over a few times this season. Derrick Henry was one of the running backs who has done that before. So do you like Gibbs? And then also, do you think this could be more of a David Montgomery game versus Gibbs coming out of the bye, or will we see more of a split like we've seen so far?
Well, it's a big game because remember, Detroit lost to Dallas on that kind of iffy officiating call. And then Dan Campbell sort of emotionally, he's a bit of a fireworks show, went for it, probably shouldn't have. I think this is a big game for Detroit. You play the Cowboys and, it used to be we only watched Detroit on Thanksgiving. This is going to be the most watched game of the weekend. And I think the amazing thing about Jared Goff's perfect night was that he only threw 18 times. I think Ben Johnson has figured out over the last 2 weeks, what am I doing? Run the ball. So I like both backs to have good games. And I also think this is a team that is trying to establish an identity. I thought they were a little cute early. I think they're getting back to what they are, physical now. I think they double down on that.
Couple of wide receivers to wrap things up today. One of them in a game we've already hit on, Terry McLaurin going up against the Ravens on the other side of that one. He's wide receiver 24 on DraftKings so far this season, possibly due for a breakout game. He does lead the Commanders in targets, catches, yards, longest catch, and receiving touchdowns. So he's been involved. He hasn't had that huge blow up quite yet. And this Baltimore pass defense has been got at times this year, particularly last week. Joe Burrow looked amazing against them. Now, Terry McLaurin might not be Jamar Chase level good, but he's pretty good. And this defense has struggled against top-level receivers. What do you expect from McLaurin this week?
I think this is a lot of points. I think Baltimore's favored by almost a touchdown for a reason, but I still think Washington, even if they're in a losing cause, they're going to flex. I mean, this has the classic backdoor cover feel where Baltimore's clearly the better team, but Washington outplayed a little bit, comes firing back. Until proven otherwise, I think Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and Washington are going to score a lot of points. Now, Baltimore is going to move the ball in this defense, but that's good because that means Washington gets more possessions and often more quickly. So I think this is a shootout, and I think McLaurin will flourish.
I'm so fascinated by that matchup. I think it is the highest total of the week. It was last time I checked. And, stylistically, like the Ravens defense wants you to throw to the middle of the field. Jane Daniels likes to throw to the sideline. Plus, I know they're kind of downplaying the Daniels and Lamar, similarities, at least the quarterbacks are in press conferences. But, Washington wants him to come out and have a good game. Yeah. So I think they're going to throw a lot. I'm really excited to watch that one. The last wide receiver here, Stephon Diggs, also in a game we already hit on talking about Stroud. He's, of course, going up against the Patriots as well. Wide receiver 15, a little over 10 fantasy points per game on DraftKings this season. No Nico Collins, as you already mentioned. Tank Dell has struggled so far this year. So could this be a big Diggs game?
I don't think Houston's going to move the ball much. The Texans are kind of a fascinating team, is that I think because we were so excited that we got another star quarterback, that we all kind of fell in love with them, but they're still really young. And now they're young and beat up. I do think if Nico Collins doesn't play, however, I do think CJ Stroud believes he's got to develop this relationship. So I'm going to roll the dice here and say the one member of the Texans I think plays well is Stephon Diggs. I think CJ Stroud realizes if I'm going to beat Kansas City, if I'm going to beat Buffalo in the playoffs, if I'm going to beat these top AFC teams like Baltimore, we're going to have multiple weapons. And I think this is the classic, hey, it could be a choppy, ugly game. I want to develop my relationship with Diggs, who I still like, by the way. I don't think he's disruptive. I think he's impatient. I think after about 3 years, he's like Devontae Adams. He gets over it. But I don't think Devontae or Stephon Diggs are disruptive players. I don't think they're T.O. They're outspoken, but they're very, very good players. In the first 2 years, they're at a place. They're highly productive. So I think he'll have a good afternoon.
I know you didn't necessarily say we got over our skis on Stroud or anything. I know we both like him, but do you think that maybe the shine's coming off Bobby Slowick at all a little bit just in talking about this offense?
No, I think young quarterbacks are very reliant on run support. Look at Caleb Williams in the last 2 weeks when DeAndre Swift's had some crevices. Oh, it's like a different quarterback. His completion percentage last 2 weeks is 71%. And I just think as good as CJ Stroud was, Patrick Mahomes admitted the light went on year 3. Stroud's terrific. But one of the reasons he was terrific, Laramie Tunsil, run game, multiple receivers. Well, now you're taking Nico out, and now you're taking Joe Mixon out. Well, he's still a young quarterback. You can do that with Mahomes now. You can do that with Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. So I just think young quarterbacks need help, and I think Slowick's fine. Some are criticizing him, but I think Bobby's proven he can coach. I just think the kid needs more of his top stars.
We'll wrap up there. Remember, everybody, to head to fantasypros.com/challenge to play along all season long.